Justin Tackett, and I'm making this video as a application to the Hot Rod Garage co-host position. Growing up here in Southern California, there's plenty of things to do with cars. Growing up, you know, there was things from building slot car tracks to building car models, you know, all with my parents, both of which were a huge influence on my choice of hobbies. The car behind me here is a 68 El Camino. I rode to school in this every day, so it was definitely a good intro into the car world. Also, a thing that got me inspired was, you know, we would go out into the garage sometimes. This is my mom's 70 Camaro, and she would take this to car shows. So, you know, when I was a kid, she would start up in the garage. It was like thundering in my chest, you know? So it's just, you know, it kind of speaks to you when you have an experience kind of like that. Also, there was things such as, you know, riding to the local racetrack, which was El Cajon Speedway at one point with my dad and the Chevelle he had, 68 Chevelle he has. And more recently, he's finished his 69 Nova race car, and so it's cool to go down there and, you know, help him do his thing at the racetrack. So as I was growing up, had all these things. I really wanted to be like a race car driver or something like that. But the closer I got to actually, you know, owning a car, the more I really became interested in the building of a car. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking some college classes at the local community college for automotive technology, anything from engine performance to automotive electrical to different brakes classes, and then engine overhaul, which was my favorite. I ended up rebuilding a 5-liter Ford engine out of a newer Mustang, and that was a lot of fun. I was able to do a lot of creativity with the build, different paints and stuff. And anyway, so while I was doing all that, really, I had an apprenticeship at a local shop called Rocky's Automotive. Turned into a full time mechanics job. We specialized in Miatas, of course. So what we did was, you know, any kinds of upgrades, really, because a lot of them were autocross cars. They weren't just show cars necessarily, but a lot of autocross cars. So it was anything from, you know, different coilover suspension upgrades to exhausts and intakes and roll bars, and it was really fun being able to do all these things. It kind of taught me a lot about the different theories behind the different kinds of aftermarket parts, you know, why you need a bigger sway bar or not, for instance. Just a really good experience learning about the aftermarket and the customization of cars to get the different results you want. Now, in my own car collection, I have my most recent buy was this 68 Ranchero. It is quite a project. When I bought it, the engine was sort of in it. It has a 289 out of a 66 Galaxy according to its numbers on it. But anyway, it's just something that needs a lot of work, but it's kind of a throwback to my first car, which was a 69 Ranchero, which I actually totaled after 2 weeks driving it. Which, you know, parents always say you're going to total your car. No, I'm not. Well, I did. So this is kind of a redo for me, if you will, a reset. I get to rebuild another one. Now, after I wrecked that first Ranchero, I ended up saving up and buying this 85 Mustang. I actually bought it for $750 about 7 years ago. It's got a lot more into it now. The latest thing that I'm most proud of on this car is I actually did swap from the central fuel injection that it originally had to this carbureted setup. You know, on a budget that I built this, so I actually went to some of the local auto swap meets and found a lot of used parts I was able to use, such as the Edelbrock intake manifold, which is a Torker 289, which worked really well, and the carburetor I bought, 600 CFM Holley, was able to rebuild that. Bought that for only $10, if you can believe it. And you know, just a couple different things I had to do. I did the distributor, billet aluminum distributor. This I did buy new. This is an HEI style, so that way the coil and everything is all self-contained. It's really neatened up the engine bay a little bit. Ford racing wires, new spark plugs, you know, some of the basic stuff that you need to do. A couple fittings I needed, but most of it was purchased for less than it would have costed to, for instance, change the fuel injectors in the original setup. Now, this car has a few things done to it, many more to come, but it's one of my favorites. My next car is an 86 Mustang GT. This I bought not too long ago to use as my daily driver. This has a sequential fuel injection of the newer Mustangs. A lot better than the original fuel injection on that red one. It had a couple problems. It had mostly been sitting a lot, but with the previous owner, so it had a couple idle issues, which were pretty easy to fix, some vacuum leaks and stuff. Pretty basic stuff. It also had an overheating problem, which I decided to look into. What I found was I had a pretty clogged up radiator, and everything else, the hoses and stuff, were just kind of old from sitting. So what I did was I got this Mishimoto radiator and fans combination, which came with the aluminum radiator, and the aluminum fan shroud and fans here, as you can see. This was all a package deal I got. It fits right in here, direct fit pretty much. I got all the silicone hoses here to replace my rubber, and I also did the thermostat, which is right down in here in this housing. Always a good idea to do your thermostat when you do a cooling system upgrade, just so that way you know that it's not going to be sticking on you in the future, and you know your setup's complete, basically. Now, one of the harder parts of this build was, well, this project was the wiring for the fans. So it kind of came with some instructions in the box when I got it, but basically all it really told you was that you want to do your blue wires that came out of the fan were your power wires, and your black wires were your ground wires. Now what that means is when you hook it up that way, with power to the blue and ground to the black, the fans are going to pull the air in through the nose of the car, which is what you want, because otherwise you'll be pushing out and it'll just kind of work against any air going through, and so it'll just kind of muddy up your air in your radiator. You won't get any cooling. Now anyway, so you want to make sure you're always blowing through. A way to check that, if you don't have the diagram or you just weren't sure, was you put whatever wire you think will be your power. So for in this case it would have been the blue, and whatever wire you want to try as your ground, in this case was the black. But you would just put it straight to the battery voltage and the fan will work. It'll work either way, but the way the electric motor works is if it has a different polarity, it'll blow or it'll pull with a fan. So in this case, we had all that figured out already for us. Now, one of the things I did that wasn't necessarily in any instructions or anything, but I wanted to be a little safer, was I wired in a relay. Now this is a sample relay. As you can see, it has a little diagram on top. So, and you can find these diagrams online and everything if you need to. Now what I did, how the relay works is you have a low voltage side and you have a high voltage side. So you put two wires on your high voltage side, are going to be directly from your battery. You want a direct wire from power and ground. This way, you have direct power, 12 volts or 13 point whatever with your alternator going, engine running. Then when you have your other side, your low voltage side, what you want to do is you can run just a low amperage wire, a small gauge wire, so that way it's easier to run around, easier to maneuver. And you can run that. What I did was I ran it to a key on power wire inside the car, so that way when the key's on, the fans will be on, just in case anybody drives it. Nobody has to worry about turning on a switch when it gets to a certain temperature or anything. So when you run the wires out here, what you're doing is your low voltage side, when that has power, what it does is it basically flicks on the switch for the high voltage side, which then sends the voltage out to your fans or whatever you may be running, lights, it works with fog lights, anything you might need high voltage to. You don't want to run a big wire for your switch. So it's pretty simple. You can find the diagrams online, and it makes it a lot safer for daily operation. So this has been my little segment. I'm calling this a backyard garage. Hopefully one day I'll be able to do one for Hot Rod Garage. And anyway, it's great that you guys are doing this kind of an application. It gives anybody a chance. And as you can tell, a lot of the cars around in my life have really resonated with your guys' show, from the El Camino to the F-Bomb Camaro to the Ranchero you guys took to Alaska. It all kind of coincides with what I've been trying to do. Anyway, great show, guys. Keep it up. Hope you guys choose, well, I know you guys will choose someone great. All right.